Hey kids, I don't know how much time I have to read, but I think 20 minutes. We're going to read 9/11 Synthetic Terror Made in the USA by Webster Griffin Tarpley. The Lies of the U.S. Press. In the immediate aftermath of 9/11, the U.S. media were gripped by chauvinist hysteria and war psychosis. Two courageous editors, Ron Gutting of the Texas City Sun and Dan Guthrie of the Grants Pass Oregon Daily Courier, were fired for lèse magistrate, or was it Werkschreiber, that's a German word, I forgot, when they dared to criticize Bush, including for his cowardice on 9/11. Lèse magistrate, disrespect to the crown or treason, but Werkschreiber, long German word, means capital offense of undermining the war effort in the Third Reich. Edward Herman, professor of political science at the University of Pennsylvania, pointed out that Pravda and Izvestia, IZVESTIA, I know Pravda, but I don't know what Izvestia is, in the former Soviet Union, would have been hard-pressed to surpass the American media in their subservience to the official agenda. They have abandoned the notion of objectivity or even the idea of providing a public space where problems are discussed and debated. It's a scandal that reveals the existence of a system of propaganda, not of serious media, so essential in a democratic society, end quote. That's from Meysan, Meysan, I guess it's a newspaper name, 2002, 87, I guess 87 is the page it's on. Of course, the 9/11 myth could not have been generated and propagated by official leaks, statements, documents, and reports alone. These had to be dished up to a gullible public by the corporate press, offered by the electronic media. Richard Bernstein and other New York Times staffers produced an elaboration of the official version entitled Out of the Blue, the story of September 11, 2001. Yeah, out of the blue. They planned it and officially orchestrated it, and it was out of the blue. From jihad to ground zero. Surely this embrace of 9/11 orthodoxy by the newspaper of record ought to give us some confidence that the basic facts have been checked. But of course, the fact that one reads something in the New York Times guarantees nothing these days. The problem is not limited to the excesses of Jason Blair, who was terminated. Far more disturbing were the activities of neocon regime stenographer Judith Miller, a crony of the crank author Lori Mallory, Mylroie, Mylroie. I don't know who that Lori Mylroie is. Can't even say her name. Miller, I know Judith Miller. Miller was responsible for uncritically purveying the lies of the Wolfowitz clique about Iraq's phantomatic weapons of mass destruction, partly because of Miller's excess of neocon zeal and absolute lack of critical screening. The New York Times was forced to apologize to its readers for its defective coverage. When is Rachel Maddow going to apologize for her defective coverage of the COVID coup and the bioweapon that was released on the public, fakely called a vaccine? But unlike the hapless Blair, the disingenuous Miller, whose falsifications have contributed to a world tragedy, continued to scribble until she was jailed in the Valerie Plame espionage intrigue. If the New York Times had to apologize for serving as a megaphone for Bush's lies of 2002 and 2003, how long will it be before they are forced to apologize for trumpeting Bush's even bigger lie of 2001? How long will it be before the New York Times has to apologize for its pitiful propaganda piece out of the blue? Let me just see what time it is. The radio might turn on, so I'm sorry ahead of time. Okay, the next one is the Meacher critique. Meacher's M-E-A-C-H-E-R. Meacher. Okay, I have still 20 minutes. Okay, the Meacher critique. A decisive turn in the transatlantic 9/11 debate came...
Hey, come see us live.
Shit, god damn it. Come see us live, yeah. Come shut up your mouth. Shut your pie hole. Okay, got rid of that. Okay. Once more. Woo! A decisive turn in the transatlantic 9/11 debate came in the late summer of 2003 when the dimensions of the Anglo-American fiasco in Iraq were becoming evident. Michael Meacher had been a close associate of Tony Blair and one of the most prominent leaders of New Labour. He was a member of Parliament and held the post of Environmental Minister from May 1997 to June of 2003. Other members of Blair's cabinet, such as the former Overseas Development Minister Claire Short, had quit over the Iraq adventure. Meacher was more courageous and more radical. He called into question the heart of the myth which the Bush administration wanted to foist off on the world. Meacher wrote, quote, "First, it is clear the U.S. authorities did little or nothing to preempt the 9/11 attacks." Sorry, it says the events of 9/11. It is known that at least 11 countries provided advance warning to the U.S. of the 9/11 attacks. 2 senior Mossad experts were sent to Washington in August of 2001 to alert the CIA and FBI to a cell of 200 terrorists said to be preparing a big operation. That's in the Daily Telegram, September 16th, 2001. The list they provided included the names of 4 of the 9/11 hijackers, none of whom were arrested. It says was. Why did I say were? None of whom was arrested. None of whom were arrested. I don't know. It's plural, I thought. But none is only... I don't know how to... I would say were. It had been known as early as 1996 that there were plans to hit Washington targets with airplanes. Then in 1999, the U.S. National Intelligence Council report noted that, quote, Al-Qaeda suicide bombers could crash land an aircraft packed with high explosives into the Pentagon, the headquarters of the CIA, or the White House. 15 of the 9/11 hijackers obtained their visas in Saudi Arabia. Michael Springman, the former head of the American Visa Bureau in Jeddah, how do you say it? Jeddah, that's in Saudi Arabia, had stated that since 1987 the CIA had been illicitly issuing visas to unqualified applicants from the Middle East and bringing them to the U.S. for training in terrorism for the Afghan war in collaboration with bin Laden. These were all CIA guys. That's from the BBC, November 6, 2001. It seems this operation continued after the Afghan war for other purposes. It is also reported that 5 of the hijackers received training at secure U.S. military installations in the 1990s. It's from the same news. No, that's from Newsweek, September 15, 2001. Instructive leads prior to 9/11 were not followed up. French Moroccan flight student Zacharias Moussaoui, now thought to be the 20th hijacker, was arrested in August 2001 after an instructor reported he showed a suspicious interest in learning how to steer large airliners. When U.S. agents learned from French intelligence he had radical Islamic ties, they sought a warrant to search his computer, which contained clues to the 9/11 mission. Times, November 3rd, 2001. But they were turned down by the FBI. One agent wrote a month before 9/11 that Moussaoui might be planning to crash into the Twin Towers. Newsweek of May 20th, 2002. All of this makes it all the more astonishing on the war on terrorism perspective that there was such slow reaction on September 11th itself. The first hijacking was suspected at no later than 8:20 a.m., and the last hijacked airline crashed in Pennsylvania at 10:06 a.m. Not a single fighter plane was scrambled to investigate from U.S. Andrews Air Force Base, just 10 miles from Washington, D.C., until after the third plane had hit the Pentagon at 9:38 a.m. Why not? There were standard FAA intercept procedures for hijacked airlines before 9/11. Between September 2000 and June of 2001, the U.S. military launched fighter aircraft on 67 occasions to chase suspicious aircraft. That's from the AP of August 13, 2002. It is the U.S. legal requirement that once an aircraft has moved significantly off its flight plan, fighter planes are sent up to investigate. Never happened because they were running 5 or 6 drills at the same time that they thought it was a drill. Was this inaction simply the result of key people disregarding or being ignorant of the evidence? Or could U.S. air security operations have been deliberately stood down on September 11th? Of course they were, by Cheney. If so, why and on whose authority? The former U.S. federal crimes prosecutor John Loftus has said, quote, "The information provided by European intelligence services prior to 9/11 was so extensive that it is no longer possible for either the CIA or FBI to assert a defense of incompetence. Nor is the U.S. response after 9/11 any better. No serious attempt has ever been made to catch bin Laden. In late September and early October 2001, leaders of Pakistan's 2 Islamic parties negotiated bin Laden's extradition to Pakistan to stand trial for 9/11. However, a U.S. official said significantly that, quote, "casting our objectives too narrowly," end quote, risked, quote, premature collapse of the international effort if by some lucky chance Mr. bin Laden was captured, end quote. The U.S. chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Myers, went so far as to say that, quote, "the goal The goal has never been to get bin Laden, end quote. That's from the AP, April 5th, 2002. The whistleblowing FBI agent Robert Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T, told ABC News December 19, 2002 that FBI headquarters wanted no arrests. And in November 2001, the U.S. Air Force complained it had Al-Qaeda and Taliban leaders in its sights as many as 10 times over the previous 6 weeks, but had been unable to attack because they did not receive permission quickly enough. That's from the Time magazine of May 13, 2002. None of this assembled evidence, all of which comes from sources already in the public domain, is comparable with the idea of a real determined war on terrorism. Michael Meacher, M-E-A-C-H-E-R. That's his quote in The War on Terrorism is Bogus, from The Guardian, September 6, 2003. Wow, The Guardian was still doing real news. They're shit now. This is by all odds the most powerful critique of 9/11 myth to come from an elected official in Britain. One senses the spirit of Tony Benn, B-E-N-N, the indomitable leader of the Labour left, who gave Meacher moral support. As for Claire Short, when asked in an interview if there was any common ground between Meacher's critique of Blair and her own, she nervously replied that Meacher had taken himself completely out of mainstream. Okay, the next section is called Paul Hellyer, Hellyer, rejects the U.S. orthodoxy. So should everyone who has any conscience. Okay, kids, that's all we got for the 9/11 bullshit false flag operation.